This is Yeji Kim from Hudson High School. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Yeji Around Town will continue through Zoom. My goal is to inform and enrich the Hudson community on the numerous shops and restaurants in Hudson. I will still be featuring many local businesses, so stay tuned and enjoy the show. Hello, this is Yeji Kim from Yeji Around Town, and for the 12th episode of my show, I am going to introduce to you Ross Farm Mercantile, which is a yarn store located on 46 Ravenna Street in Hudson, Ohio. So today I am here with Amy Ross-Manco. Amy, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Amy Ross-Manco, as you said. I am the proprietress of the Ross Farm Mercantile and the owner of the Ross Farm in southwestern Pennsylvania as well.
All right, so I just introduced Ross Farm Mercantile as a yarn store, but when I look at the store website, I see that it is just beyond the yarn itself. It's all about the process of yarn making and highlighting the animals and so much more. So I'm so excited to introduce this shop to everyone. So to start off, the Ross Farm Mercantile is the store in Hudson, but the farm itself and its animals, like you just mentioned, are located in Pennsylvania. So could you explain how this works and the relationship between the two places?
So I am fifth generation and my son is sixth generation on our family farm in southwestern Pennsylvania. Our family has been raising sheep in southwestern Pennsylvania since the early 1700s. Our current farm is from 1894. So there are two other farms that belong to other members of the family going back to about 1740. But when I took over the farm, which is on the National Register of Historic Places, I decided that the focus should be on heritage and rare breed livestock. So starting in about 2007, 2008, we began raising and preserving livestock that is historically significant to southwestern Pennsylvania and is also and has an endangered status as developed by the Livestock Conservancy, which tracks the registrations of these incredibly rare breeds of livestock. So now we raise 9 different breeds of heritage and rare breed sheep, as well as American milking Devon cattle, Ossabaw Island and large black hogs, several different kinds of poultry, and a couple of draft horses, a couple of breeds of draft horses. So we're a moderately medium-sized farm in southwestern Pennsylvania, and we raise a flock of about 150 sheep, not counting the lambs, every year. And when the sheep are sheared, the wool is then sent to the processor, which is another female-owned business in Pennsylvania. It's turned directly into yarn for use by knitters, crocheters, and weavers.
Yeah, that your store and the farm itself, they have a very, very rich history. I think you mentioned the 1700s, the 1800s, and I love how through all of that, it's always been kept a family-owned business too. I think that's really great.
Thing that truly makes our product special, because I oversee every process that our yarn goes through from the birth of the lambs until the finished skein. So a lot of our yarns, I can actually say, like, I introduced their grandparents because, yeah, I've managed the entire process, and all of our skeins have the name of the animal and
Mhm.
the photo of the sheep on each of the skeins. So that makes it a little bit extra special too. You actually know like who you're knitting with, not just what you're knitting with.
Yeah, that's very special, I think.
And so many of the yarns that are commercially available are just merino, which is a breed of sheep that is very, very much mainstream, where the yarns in my shop are lesser known breeds and have different characteristics than you would find from commercial yarns in other yarn shops.
Mhm. Yeah. And besides the Ross Farm Mercantile store, I know there is also a bed and breakfast inn, and the farm itself also also supplies produce and meat in addition to yarn. Could you explain more about this?
Sure. My son's focus, besides raising animals, is Ross Farm Fresh, which is his heritage breed meat and produce company. And he supplies several restaurants and markets in southwestern Pennsylvania and is now starting his expansion into Ohio now that I live here. And all of our meats are grass fed and humanely raised. And just if you haven't had farm fresh meats, it's just a totally different experience. Um, and I'm proud to say that he handles all of that. And then I also have a bed and breakfast, as you mentioned, in southwestern Pennsylvania called the Shepherd's Inn, because I'm a shepherd. And it is an 1888 Queen Anne Victorian. And if you're interested in visiting southwestern Pennsylvania, you can get more details on it at shepherdsinnpa.com and see all the photos of the beautiful brick Queen Anne Victorian with the turrets and the gazebo. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. I've loved the house all of my life, and I'm so excited to be able to share it with other people.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the photos of the inn, and the interior and the exterior are beautifully decorated and everything. Mhm.
Thank you.
So, why did you choose to open the Ross Farm Mercantile in Hudson? And I guess what role do you think your shop sort of has in Hudson?
So I moved here last year during the pandemic, actually, because tragically my husband was killed on the farm in an accident, and I don't want to be there anymore. I'm nothing if not honest. And when I moved up here, I intended on finding a storage space for me to keep my product because I historically have only participated in fiber festivals across the country. And I had a small yarn store back home in Pennsylvania, but I had closed it to focus on the fiber festivals, only to have the pandemic kill all of the fiber festivals for 2020 and leave me and all of my indie dyer friends and yarn creators with no outlet for our products. So when I saw this space in the evaporator works, I knew immediately that I wanted to reopen the shop and I wanted to reimagine the shop because as I learned more about the community, I found that there was a very robust fiber arts community here. And there had been 3 different yarn stores in Hudson historically, and everybody had wonderful memories of their time in those shops. And as I'm establishing myself here as a member of the community, I thought the one thing that I can give to the community is my love of the fiber arts and my my shop. So I decided to open here, and one of the things that was very important to me was that it wouldn't be direct competition with other yarn shops in the area, that we would differentiate our product enough that it wasn't just a copycat of something else. And the other thing that I really wanted to focus on was dedicating 1/3 of my shop to a constantly rotating trunk show collection so that my indie dyer friends who are unable to participate in fiber festivals at all and also don't have the ability to open a small shop just with their product, that I could bring them in and expose their yarns to members of the community and basically Northeast Ohio throughout the year. And that's been going really, really well. And I'm very excited to, have basically a third of my shop totally changing every 2 to 3 weeks. And the excitement of my customers coming through the door to see what I've brought in this time and what is just going to be too tempting to leave behind. So that's been a real, really exciting proposition for me. And I think that makes us very different than the other yarn shops.
Mm-hmm. So is a fiber festival sort of like a yarn showcase where people can come and see the different types of fibers?
Not exactly. A fiber festival is more like a conference or a fair. So the largest ones in the East Coast are in Maryland, just outside of Baltimore, and in Rhinebeck, New York, in the Hudson Valley. And they take over large fairgrounds and have about 300 vendors. They have sheep shows, they have llama and alpaca shows, goat shows, and lots of activities, classes, amazing food. And it's kind of like a fair, except it's all fiber. So a fiber fair, I guess. And then other shows that we do are more convention like and convention center based, like we do Dallas Fort Worth Fiber Festival, and also we've done Stitches West in San Jose, California, and both of those take over an entire convention center and provide very much the same thing without the animal component, because it's indoors in a city, but classes, vendors, food, all of that sort of thing. So the Maryland Sheep and Wool gets about 30,000 attendees, and Rhinebeck does about 65,000 attendees. So they're really extremely large scale, and what we're doing here in the shop is extremely small scale. But both are equally important, and especially with all of the large fiber festivals going either virtual or shuttering for 2020, it's been a real challenge for a lot of us to keep our businesses open without the exposure to tens of thousands of people to shop with our products. So this is the little bit that I can do to help out both my business and the businesses of my friends. Historically and traditionally, most of the fiber companies that I work with and in existence today are female owned and or family farm based. And that's what I focus on here in my shop, is as much as possible female owned and family farm based. Mm-hmm. And we actually just did a yarn collaboration that is female, from the sheep that were sheared all the way through the shearer, the processing, the dyer, the designer, and me. And I call it the Sisters Are Doing It for Themselves project, because we literally sheared female sheep with a female shearer and then had it processed by a female owned and family farm based yarn mill. And then Jean from Destination Yarn in Cleveland did the dyeing, and Tanis Gray, who just wrote the official Harry Potter knitting book and the official Star Wars knitting book, she did a design for a sweater. And so it's been a year of reimagining, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that collaboration is really amazing between everyone. Mm-hmm.
Well, when we all work together, we all succeed. So
yeah, I would agree with that. So to talk a little bit more about the Ross Farm Mercantile itself, I know you just showed us some yarn. What other products do you offer at your shop? I see a loom behind you as well.
Yes. There. Yeah. We are shacked dealers as well. So we carry the rigid heddle looms. We carry spinning wheels. We can special order the larger floor looms. And we do everything down to, oh, it's over there, the teeny tiny 4x4 pin looms. And we teach weaving as well. So we can teach anything from, we have teeny tiny woven bracelet looms. So we can teach you to weave using a bracelet loom, all the way up to the rigid heddle, which does a 15-inch wide project. So you can make a wrap or a shawl or whatever. And we also teach spinning with the spinning wheels that we sell here in the shop, and the fibers that I raise on the farm, as well as some commercially prepared fibers that are dyed by our indie dyer friends. And the Shack products are built by a family-owned company in Colorado, so they're all American-made as well.
Yeah, when I was in elementary school, I think I took a weaving loom class, and I was able to make like a small blanket. I still have it, and it was a really good memory. It was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a skill that it's much simpler than you think it is, but it's so rewarding to make your own things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you know the process behind making a spinning wheel or a loom, or how much time it takes to make one?
Well, in September of 2019, my late husband and I visited the Shack factory for their dealer days weekend, and we were actually able to watch the process of building their looms and wheels. And the wheels, you know, while they're made in batches, beginning to end, they take a week or two to make after all of the components, all the wood has been seasoned and all of that. But the wood for the wheels that they're making today was brought about a year ago, because it has to, you know, dry and cure before they can create the products out of it. Mm-hmm. But that was really amazing. And I believe you can go on their website and watch a short video of the process of making wheels and looms.
I love how you're connected to all of these other family-owned businesses, all of these other businesses as well.
Yes, that's something that I think makes us special and is super important to me. I don't just like to go online and order something from an unknown source. Like, if I know my yarn down to the name of the animal that produced it, I feel like I should at least, you know, have some sort of a relationship with my suppliers. And, you know, also here in the shop, we have the products of several other small businesses, mostly female owned or family farm based. And, you know if I need more stitch markers, I just call Sarah, and Sarah makes more stitch markers for me. And I know if I need more fiber, I can call Jill in Pittsburgh, and she'll just get it shipped up here. So it's a different kind of mindset here in the shop, I think. Mm-hmm. I want it to be more of a curated collection than just a shop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And on the Ross Farm website, I saw that there's a status for the animals, such as threatened or recovering. Could you explain more about this?
Sure. So there's an organization called the Livestock Conservancy, and it's just livestockconservancy.org if you want to go check it out. But right now they are doing a program called the Shave 'em to Save 'em project that encourages fiber artists to work with the rare breeds. And more information about that is available at rarewool.org. But the Livestock Conservancy tracks the number of registrations of all of the different heritage breeds of livestock, whether it's sheep or cattle or horses or chickens or ducks or rabbits. They track all of these things, and based on the number of registrations, they are categorized by critically endangered, threatened, recovering, and watch. And watch means we think maybe registrations are dipping a little bit, and we should really keep an eye on this, because these could be disappearing sooner rather than later if we don't really manage what's going on here. And I'm proud to say that one of my first breeds of sheep, the Leicester Long Wool, when I started raising them in 2008, they were critically endangered. and they have now graduated to threatened, as does our Highland cattle. I forgot to mention we had a couple of Highlands. Bonnie just had a calf, so I'm thinking about her right now. Our wee Bonnie Lass is our Highland cow. She's adorable. But anyways, yeah, so the Livestock Conservancy keeps track of all of these things, and each year they publish a list and categorize all of the different breeds of livestock by whether, they have a critical need for preservation, which is less than 400 animals in the US and 1,500 worldwide, which, when you think about it, is really crazy, because some of the more prolific breeds, there will be ranches out west that have 1,500 of that breed on one particular farm, where, these critically endangered breeds, there's only 1,500, there's less than 1,500 of them throughout the entire world. And there have been a couple of really good survival stories of animals that have been critically endangered and have started to come back, and even some animals that are originally from the UK, some breeds that are from the UK that have diminished in and Australia, that have diminished in registrations there, to the point that the American livestock that were developed from the UK and Australian stock is now going to be important to be re-imported back to Australia and the UK to help them to recover with their numbers over there. So, we're all working together. The Livestock Conservancy has a counterpart in the UK called the Rare Breeds Survival Trust, and the two organizations work together to try to keep the rare breeds going, because it's really important. And, with the move away from fast fashion, there's really a place in this world now for wool sheep that wasn't really there. I always say polyester killed the luster, because the advent of man-made materials decreased the need or the desire for natural raw materials, to the point that nobody wanted to raise wool sheep anymore because there was no market for it. So everybody moved to the meat sheep that actually don't need to be shorn, so that they didn't have to worry about that. So it's very important to me that we work hard for the preservation of these very important breeds of livestock.
Yeah. And I love how, you're sharing all of that information with your consumers and everyone as well, because for me as a consumer, when I buy a product and I see where it's coming from and I see all the efforts behind it, it makes it really, really special.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And, when you come here, you can actually make yourself a sweater, because I literally have a Leicester Longwool named Sweater, who makes yarn for us every year. And we tend to name our sheep based on who their parents were. So all of Sweater's offspring have accessory names, like her children Cardigan and Pullover. So it's just something weird that we do, but like when you come into our shop, I can tell you where things come from. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important, with everybody moving toward farmers market and organic produce. I think they should also be looking at textiles through that same lens. Mm-hmm. Where did it come from? Who made this? What is the sustainability of the materials that were used? It's important. Mm-hmm. And I think more to your generation than mine, but I think we're raising your generation to ask those questions and not just, run to the Old Navy and buy a $7 sweater.
So are there any upcoming events that the Ross Farm or Ross Farm Mercantile is planning? I know you mentioned you used to do fiber festivals, but because of COVID-19, a lot of them have been canceled. Are there any main events in 2021 or even 2022?
Well, we assume by 2022 we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming. Right now, our first fiber festival that we think may happen is late September of 2021, and that's Shenandoah Valley Fiber Festival. And the show that I mentioned, the New York Sheep and Wool Festival in Rhinebeck, New York, is also tentatively still happening in October of 2021. And then a couple of weeks or a week after that is the Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair in Asheville, outside of Asheville, North Carolina, in the end of November or beginning of November of 2021. So those are the first shows that we hope to be attending. We're going to have a couple of little things here in the shop. When the weather breaks, we'll be having some knit nights and starting to build our community here in our shop. We have a beautiful area here. Just outside the door is a giant courtyard. And so we'll be able to have people come and bring their camp chairs and beverages and craft items and just hang out and craft here in the sunshine in the evenings once the weather gets better.
Because of COVID-19 and quarantining, do you think the popularity of knitting and yarn work and fibers has increased, or how has that affected your business?
I think that the quarantine and the stay-at-home orders have really caused people to reimagine what their lives in their homes look like. I think there's been, we've all seen the surge in popularity of baking and cooking, and everybody has a sourdough starter on the counter. And I think that's extended now into the fiber arts, where people have discovered that fiber arts and knitting and spinning and weaving is a meditative kind of process. And, there have been lots of studies that show the effect of knitting on depression and anxiety and focus. And I think people are discovering that that's a really good thing to have during the pandemic. And there are so many resources that are available on websites and YouTube, and so many supplies that are available on websites and Etsy. And so I think it has really flourished, and that has saved a lot of small businesses that would have been absolutely destroyed by COVID. Without the fiber festivals, so many of us just don't have an outlet for our product. And, frankly, I'm pretty darn blessed to be able to open the shop here in Hudson. And I think that that's why I need to support the other indie dyers by, bringing them into the shop as well. And I really think that fiber arts has seen almost a renaissance during the pandemic. And I'm excited to hear that some of the local schools have been doing knitting and crochet and very basic weaving, because, traditionally knitting has been even a little bit subversive. They've shown where, knitting has been used to transmit codes and secret messages, during conflict. And I think that's a whole other rabbit hole you can go down when you're looking into knitting. But knitting has been used to transmit coding long before computers could do it. So I think definitely the pandemic, there's almost been a slight bit of a positive from this stay-at-home order. If you're always trying to look on the bright side, we came out of this pandemic, or we'll be coming out of this pandemic, with a lot of skills that we didn't have going in, and things that we never imagined ourselves doing. I wasn't really into baking sourdough bread, but it's darn tasty, and I'm going to keep doing that,
It's been great to learn about Ross Farm Mercantile and the Ross Farm and all of your efforts with animal conservation and all the products as well. So thank you so much for coming to my show and telling me about your shop today.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been delightful meeting you, and and sharing a little bit about our shop and our farm family with you today.
So next, we are going to tour the inside of the Ross Farm Mercantile, so stay tuned for that. This is Yeji Kim, and thank you so much for watching this episode of Yeji Around Town.
Welcome to the Ross Farm here at 46 Ravenna Street, Suite B7 in the Evaporator Works. Let's take a walk inside and look around. The first thing you notice when you walk in the door is the large array of natural fibers from our flock of heritage and rare breed sheep. We also carry a small selection of books and magazines, a custom dyed colorway from Space Cadet called Century Farm, and our commercial yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners from the UK. We have spinning wheels from the Shacked Company in Denver, Colorado. A selection of yarns from Gershubi Fiber Arts. Some sock yarn. A constantly rotating trunk show collection. Some closures and handmade stitch markers. Fibers for all of your spinning needs, as well as some needles, notions, Venetian glass buttons, and other small notions products, including our vegan pom-pom selection.